toys all at one time. One particular day, we pulled out both the Lincoln Logs and the Legos and made tents in the den. Now, if any of you played with Lincoln Logs and Legos, you know they have a pesky habit of getting all over the room. Well, ours got all over the room, and my mom decided it was too much of a mess, and we had to clean it up before dinner. We decided that was way too much work, so we shoved it underneath the furniture and hoped our parents wouldn't notice. Of course, they did, and we ended up getting into huge trouble that day. That day, I learned a very important lesson: never to lie and never to cheat. Unfortunately, that's not a lesson that many politicians have learned with regards to the economy. They continue to lie and cheat it out of the profits that it could make. That's why I believe that the United States should support a free market system over the current bailout system in times of economic crisis. Every single one of us will work in the economy, whether you're a student that has a major that is aimed towards working in the economy, a professor that currently does, or even a student that's working right now. Each one of us will be affected by how the economy does and whether or not it is growing. I started researching economics my senior year of high school, accrued over 100 pages of research on the subject, and sort of turned it into my senior year thesis. Today we're going to look at the problems with bailouts, both internationally and domestically in the United States, and then we're going to look at the simple solution to fixing the bailout problem. Now, the United States supports a bailout system not only in its own borders, but also internationally. It does this by supporting organizations like the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank. These organizations give money towards failing economies and then expect little to no return. This means they're basically handing out free cash. According to the Office of Management and Budget on the government publishing website in 2013, they said the United States paid $207 million towards the World Bank last year and $37 billion towards the IMF alone. That's a huge investment for the United States. Now, if the outcomes of those countries were beneficial, it might be a warranted investment. But the problem is that they aren't. According to Brzezowski and Vreeland, they both have PhDs in political science. They conducted a study for the Journal of Development Economics in 2000. They found that the countries underneath IMF programs experience a dramatic drop in growth. If you look at this graph, right where it hits bottom is right when the countries go underneath that IMF program. After they leave, they become much more volatile, making them have a long-term economic harm from those programs. They do not grow at the rate that they had before. Now that's internationally, but what about at home? Well, at home, when the United States failed in 2009, we had something called the TARP program, or the Targeted Assets Relief Program. That was funded by the Treasury, and the Treasury reported in 2013, underneath the heading TARP programs, that it was a $250 billion bailout that went towards the banking sector. $70 billion of that alone went to one company. That company was AIG. We all heard about AIG, and we all are familiar with the name of that company for that reason. Now, what was the outcome of that? What did the banking sector think? Well, the problem with the bailout wasn't just that it went towards failing banks, but it went towards the entire sector, meaning banks that weren't even doing that poorly had to accept the money. Dick Kovacevic, the then CEO of Wells Fargo, came out this past September 13th on CNBC and said that, quote, "I think it was one of the worst economic decisions in the history of the United States." He said it created widespread mistrust in the banking sector that wasn't warranted. Flora Manship, the editor for the Emory International Law Review, summed up the problems with bailouts when she said in 2010 for the Emory International Law Review that incurring debt to pay off current debt is a, quote, doomed strategy. What she's saying is that you don't actually succeed by robbing Peter to pay Paul. You end up owing somebody money. So now that we've seen the problems, what exactly is the solution? Well, thankfully, the solution is very simple. Allow the free market to take over where bailouts currently go. Now, the two questions that come up from me saying that is A, will it work? And B, is it worth it? Ian Vasquez, the director for the Cato Institute's Project on Global Economic Liberty, wrote in 2003 for the Cato Institute answering that first question, will it work? He said that, quote, bureaucratic response to government-induced turmoil makes matters worse. The market is more effective at enforcing conditions, promoting reform, and minimizing the risk of the crisis spreading into the near term or far into the future. He's saying, first of all, it works. Secondly, it works better than bailouts because it actually makes sure it happens faster and more effectively. Now, the second question is, will we lose money? Is it going to be worth it? Well, Matt Kibb, a writer for Forbes, addressed this question in 2011 when he wrote for Forbes that, quote, "We would not experience such dramatic swings were it not for the policies that distort real prices and encourage improper investment. Boom and bust cycles," I'd like to add, like the ones we saw between 2003 and 2009, "are inevitable," he continues, "when government interventions confuse market participants." So just like market participants were confused about the banking sector in 2009, so long as the government continues to falsely stimulate the economy, they will continue to be confused. Those boom and bust cycles are inevitable while bailouts continue. That's why I believe the free market, A, is better, and B, will solve the problem. Because bailouts are only a band-aid, a short-term solution to a long-term problem, I believe the free market should take over where bailouts go. Now that you're aware of this, you can do 3 things as individuals. First of all, think critically about the policies that you hear on the news. Don't just take them for face value. Instead, think about what they say and the ramifications of them. The second thing is to share the information that you know. Every single one of us has a Facebook account. It can be as easy as clicking post on Facebook. And thirdly, vote responsibly. The 2014 midterm elections are coming up and the primaries are this spring. I encourage you to look at the individual politicians and the policies that they stand for, not merely their political affiliation. Together, we can ensure that the American economy of today is better and the American economy of tomorrow is more insured. Together, we can make sure that these politicians no longer get away with sweeping their bad policies underneath the sofa and thinking it's okay. We need to call them out and allow them to see just how lying and deceitful they are being towards the economy. Thank you.